Hello, film fans. It's been a week since we last spoke. We are back doing an actual film analysis of this film. It's called Only God Forgives, if you can't see that from there, or if you're only doing the video. There is a good chance at this point, when you're hearing or watching or doing both to this podcast, that I will have rebranded the franchise. As previously mentioned on other pods, MMLP was a little bit hard to find, so we are changing the name, changing the brand, but keeping everything where it was already. So, oh my god, what is wrong with this microphone? Keeping everything where it was, so everywhere that you were already listening or watching, it will still be all in the same place. It will just be called something else. And hopefully it will be done by the time this podcast comes out. I won't say the name of the rebrand now, just in case I don't rebrand it in time for this podcast episode to come out. But without further ado, oh, by the way, I am hanging out my ass. I've got flu. I've had flu since Monday. It's now Saturday, and my throat hurts. It's hard to talk. I'm snotty. I've got headaches. So I'm going to do my very best to deliver this podcast as best as I can. Please be gentle. Anyway, let's get crack-a-lacking. This is Only God Forgives by Nicholas Winding Refn, the same guy who did Drive, which I've already covered. And it's also got Ryan Gosling in it, because when directors and actors like each other, they work together more. Scorsese, De Niro, DiCaprio, Tarantino, Sam Jackson, Guy Ritchie, Jason Statham. The list goes on. And as you can see, one mug has Lemsip in it. One mug has coffee in it. I've got my water. I've had my vitamins. I'm trying to kick the crap out of this flu, but damn. Straight away already. One of the things that stands out about this film is its absolutely insane use of lighting. The cinematography and the lighting department are having an absolute whale of a time with this one. I've only ever seen this film once, and I watched it when I was living in a student house back in university in maybe 2012, 2013. It was really shortly after it came out. And one of my housemates, who I was watching it with, was like, I swear I could write my dissertation just on this film's lighting alone. And she was probably right. The lighting is insane. So this is the opening shot of the movie. This awesome red hue and these sort of fighting iconography things in the background. You got that guy like he's posed ready for boxing or Thai boxing or something. I can't remember where this film is set, if it's Thailand or... So it's set somewhere... can you still say it's set somewhere Oriental? Can you still say Oriental, or is that considered offensive? I just thought that was geographical. But it's set somewhere yonder. I don't want to say anything offensive. It's set somewhere around that region of the world. How do you describe that region of the world? Asia? Yeah, it's set somewhere in Asia. There you go. Hey man, I'm ill. The brain and computing. Go easy on me. How's that for a lighting setup though? We know it's Ryan Gosling because he's one of the most famous stars in the world, but it's still keeping him a little bit secret to the audience, which straight away creates intrigue, because we're like, well, who is he? What's going on? What's happening here? What's going on here? You know what word I'm gonna say? It starts with sim and it ends with Dimitri, and it's pronounced symmetry. Look at that. Beautiful artwork. And again, symmetry. Okay, I realize I should probably actually verbalize what we're seeing for those that are on the audio only. And if you are on the audio only, that's fine. But you're missing out, because we've got video now. Join the YouTube channel. So what it was we're in a Thai boxing ring. Is it Thai? I should really find this out, shouldn't I? Jesus Christ. We're in a boxing ring in a part of the world that people are fighting. In the boxing ring. I don't mean socially, just in the boxing ring. Anyway, so they're doing like some sort of Mai Tai fighting or whatever. But the shot was, it's all dark and there's all these red lights and orange hues and things, and keeping everything nice and sort of secretive, like behind the scenes and everything, which builds the intrigue. But it's apparent quite early on when you see a guy getting his gloves laced up, like, oh, this must be behind the scenes of some sort of fight. Ryan Gosling takes him out into the boxing ring, and then all the audience and everybody cheering all around the outsides of the ring that's in the middle of the room is in that same dark red sort of mystique. And then the ring is very nicely brightly lit. We get a shot side on from one of the sides of the square ring, and it just looks at the two fighters with the referee in the middle. The ring sort of takes up the bottom half of the screen, and then in the background is this awesome mural of this kind of dragon type figurehead thing in a black and white black and red kind of painting, and it just looks really, really nice. And now we're on a bird's eye view of one of the fighters being absolutely sparked on the floor, and because of the artwork on the floor and the ring ropes, it's very nicely symmetrical. So already just some stunning imagery to get us started. See, and there we just had a shot of Ryan Gosling on the side with his fighter waiting for his turn to get into the ring, and the shot on Ryan was below, looking up towards his face, which, as we've established in other films, is a status thing. And then Ryan sort of pats the guy on the head and like ruffles his hair as if to say, "You'll be alright, kid." So straight away we've been presented with his status. We know he's important. He's likely in charge of at least that fighter, possibly more. There's nice little track shots happening. There's a lot of movement shots happening, like shots tracking across the side of the ring. Ryan Gosling's walking about now. He's probably got business to do. Businessman, a proper businessman. So he's like, walking along, just tracking shots, just good at tracking shots. That's it. See, now we haven't really had any music. We've only had the sounds of the audience cheering and hooping and hollering. And then as that woman started making her way through the crowd, there was a shot where none of the extras and audience members shouting and cheering are in focus, but she's in focus and she's walking through the crowd. So straight away your eyes drawn to what's in focus. You could say it's the focal point. She makes her way through the crowd. She starts talking to this guy, and as she's making her way through the crowd, we get our first bit of music, and it's this slow build of, I'm not sure what instruments they are. They're definitely sort of Asian instruments, so I don't know what they are. Sorry, I'm not cultured enough for that. But it's almost kind of, they're almost like, I want to say they're like intrigue building, mystery building instruments, like when you might hear like a really harsh minor tone violin, and you're like, that straight away sort of makes you think like, oh, something horrible is happening, or something associated with horror. Or you might hear a nice gentle plinky plonky on a piano, and that might make you think, something romantic is happening. The instruments that were being heard then, for me, and the way that they were being played, at least in that particular part of score, was very like, oh, something sneaky is happening right now. And the fact that then they are talking in hushed tones to each other and giving a few looks about just makes you think, yeah, something sneaky is happening. So my point is, the director's using a lot of, look at these head nods. See, something sneaky is happening. An exchange of goods, perhaps. So my point was that the director's using sound and camera work and, subtlety amongst the actors to showcase that. Are you kidding me? Look at that shot. Okay, so for those on the audio only, there's some sort of like, it's not a wall or a window, but there's some sort of like cut work in the bricks and things. Just go on the YouTube channel, Jesus Christ. But whatever Ryan Gosling is lent against is not a solid wall, so there's a nice little pattern on it. There's light coming through behind it. The room he's in is completely pitch black, and the orange light from what's behind him that he's leaning against is coming through, so it's silhouetting him. There's some red and orange shit happening in the top corner and the side. Straight away, that's mysterious, but it's... just look at it, man. It's not quite symmetrical. Slightly off symmetry, but it just makes me want to go, what's happening in that room? I don't know. If I press play, I'll be able to find out. They just did some like post-fight business transaction, right? And everyone's, slightly shrouded in shadow. The other guy that he's talking to, character yet established, he may be Ryan Gosling's brother. I can't remember, but he referenced it. He was like, "Oh, my brother's right. You are a good fighter," to the fighter guy. Fighter guy since left. And he's walked up to Ryan and said, "Time to meet the devil." And then, since the score was absent again, there was no music. And he said, "Time to meet the devil." And then we get like a not like some sort of poor imitation of Mongolian throat singing. Just what I meant was this tone within the score. I don't know what instrument it was. Just started to build slowly. So you're like, "Uh-oh, they're meeting the devil." It's obviously, pardon me. It's obviously a fictitious devil. What is it? No, like a figurative devil. But still, if someone's referred to as a devil and then it's accompanied with a score like that, interesting. Did you see that? Before he moved away, he was just stood there, and what a shot. Do you know what I think? Where they're all... Let me try and rewind that, actually, so we can see that more. Okay, so this is what I meant by his shadowed. So we haven't really seen him probably clearly either. But, right. So, we got this red at the top, right? The orange light that you might associate with, heaven or something good is on that side. And we got this boxing iconography thing over here. Does this red at the top maybe represent that what Ryan Gosling and this fella and everybody are doing are in the underworld? They're maybe not doing things that are nice. He's about to exit what we call exiting stage right. So he's going to walk off to his right. That's what that means, if you didn't know. Simple, isn't it? He's going to exit stage right. He's going to walk away from that, the salvation, the heavenly thing. He's going to walk towards the violence. Am I reading way too much into it? Maybe. But that's what movies are all about. Reading whatever the heck you want to read into it. See, he's walking towards the violence now. Now he looks like a fish out of water, because they've always been surrounded by red things, or at least, oranges and yellows. Things more closely on the colour palette to red. Like his t-shirt. Now he's somewhere blue, and he's looking a little bit lost. Coinkydink? I think he noted-ink. Okay, so, just to update people on where we're at with the story. We're only like less than 20 minutes, just under 20 minutes in, and I've said so much shit about this movie already. Sorry, 20 minutes into the podcast. Fuck knows how far we're into this, like 3 minutes into this film. I've lost all sympathy and respect for this guy. So he walks into we are in Bangkok, by the way, so I was right that they're Thai boxing. I'm glad I cleared that up for myself. He walks into a brothel. He asks the bloke, the pimp, I suppose, the proprietor of female services. He asks them, if they have any 14-year-olds, because he would like to, in his words, fuck one. So straight away I'm like, no. The bloke's like, can't accommodate that, mate. What you see is what we got. He bottles the pimp, runs to where the prostitutes are, and just starts attacking them. And now he's stumbling around on his own. So fuck this guy. Fuck this guy. I'm pretty sure he gets fucked, but fuck this guy. However, this is a nice shot sequence of him walking along, and the camera definitely on some sort of track, because we're not getting any wobble. It's just a very smooth thing across. He's been in central frame the whole time. There's been some nice sort of mise en scene and setup and things behind him. It's just a well-constructed shot. That's all it is. Well, it might be more than that, but I haven't read anything into it yet. See, I remember this becomes... I'm about to blow my nose and I ran out of normal tissues, so I'm using toilet roll. Don't judge me. I said don't judge me. What's wrong with you? I remember this particular image becomes a reoccurring theme. And let me blow my nose quick. Yeah, so we got these hands. What is that a reference to? Good God. Anyway, look at the colours. Look at how it's set up. It becomes important later on. I forgot what I was going to say about it because I had to blow my nose. Yeah, he's looking at his own hands. Again, he's got that boxing iconography right behind him. I'm starting to think that maybe this, the ever-present figure of this boxing statue, is that some sort of, I don't know, is it like a man test? Like, are you strong enough? Are you brave enough? Can you stand up for yourself, your family, whatever? Because I'm pretty sure that ends up being one of the themes of this movie is like, not standing up for your family and as simplistically as that, but, you know, being some sort of defender or something. So maybe him looking at his hands, he's questioning, like, do I have the power or the ability or whatever it is, you know, can I? Is he doubting himself? But so beautifully lit, man. I remember this dude being fucking terrifying. But in his stature, you might not think it. That's the sign of a good actor, though. Someone... Look at that stare. Look at that cold, callous stare. There's so much going on behind his eyes. That's the mark of a good actor. When someone who doesn't have the physical stature like this guy, but can intimidate with or hold court or hold power with, you know, a look, an expression, like someone like Bricktop in Snatch. Yeah, he gets some monumentally exquisite monologues to deliver that convey that, but he still has to sell it. It's all well and good at being on the page, but if you can't sell it, this guy, you already know. We just saw a shot of him walking slowly along an alleyway, now walking towards what we assume is a crime scene. It's where the last place we saw Ryan Gosling's brother. There's a police car outside it with the red and blue flag. That's funny how that's sort of a universal thing across the land. Across the land? Jesus Christ. Across the world, to have the red and blue flashing lights of the emergency services. I noticed that sirens change. The noise of sirens change depending on country to country, but it always seems to be red and blue. That's weird, isn't it? Anyway, so we know that they're in some sort of crime scene. You know, there's police and everything everywhere, but look how cold this lighting is. It's probably the coldest lighting we've seen in the film so far. And what that suggests to me is that, you know, either someone's dead or something horrific has happened, because any sort of warmth or life has been stripped away from the lighting palette, which up until this point has been so, not necessarily bright, but it's been very rich. Yep, and she dead. Does anyone remember that Reginald D. Hunter thing? It's such a funny joke. Sorry, just reminded myself of it. When if you don't know Reginald D. Hunter, YouTube him, but I'm going to butcher the joke, but he's like, oh yeah, he did. And then someone goes, oh, you mean he died? And he goes, yeah, he did die. Nah, he did. This is an interesting shot. What we can only imagine is probably the poor victim's father or something has just been led up the stairs by that officer. And the camera was here looking at them come up the stairs. This is a stairwell, if that wasn't apparent by the stairs. And it's just panned across to the side, and they've gone behind this pillar. It's not followed them in. And for me, that's sort of like a, they're going, you know, sort of like beyond that police barrier where the public aren't allowed to see. You know, whenever there's a crime scene or something, it's public stays over there, officers or whatever can go on through. So it's holding us back from being able to fully witness. That's a very interesting shot, which I feel is like going to be what I say every time I pause this movie. That's an interesting shot. So, what do you call it? Recompense, I suppose, for his violent crimes is happening within that room, and the camera is just slowly tracking backwards down this hallway, away from the violence. Someone's clearly beating the living crap out of him, as is apparent by that silhouette just in the doorway there. We keep seeing like someone swing something down. We just see this silhouette shadow of them swinging something down. And everything in that room is red, so we know that there's badness in there, there's violence in there. And obviously everything up here is a bit lighter, and the camera's tracking back away from it. It's just a cool shot, man. Sorry, it was an interesting shot. Just pausing it there on that awesome shot of Ryan Gosling. But it's through the sort of the story and the script. It's very apparent that the villain, the dude I was talking about earlier, the guy with a menacing stare, he doesn't fuck about. So a prostitute gets killed by Gosling's brother. He asks the father of that prostitute to kill that dude, and then you think, okay, things are done. And then we cut to him basically on his knees with car headlights on him, still covered in blood. And I don't know the guy's name, but the sort of criminal overlord dude cuts off one of his hands as a sort of like, don't let this happen to your other 3 daughters kind of thing. And you'd think, oh, maybe the other guy sort of redeemed himself having killed the other dude, but no, he's still going to take one of his limbs. So that being part of the story just emphasizes the fact that that dude does not fuck about at all. So look again at the lighting in this film, like, those two sat there or stood there, whatever, but then just take that in. Just, the lighting. Okay, so don't judge me for pausing it right here, but they're getting a little bit intimate, her and Ryan Gosling are getting intimate. The reason I'm pausing it here is, right, so Gosling was sat on a chair, she produces 2 like rather long ribbons, and he's got his arms, I don't know if you can see my chair here, but he's got his arms sort of like that on the armrests, and she ties like one ribbon over one of his forearms, same on the other side. She then sits opposite him, and the reason I pause it here is because you know how I mentioned earlier that Ryan Gosling was shot from below, giving him status. She's now been shot slightly from below, ever so slightly from below, which, he's now restrained to a chair. So she has like the power in this scene. So she's been shot from below, sort of showing that she's got more status over him, and the reverse shots on him are more square on. So maybe it's not as an extreme angle below at her, because maybe in their relationship outside of the bedroom or something, maybe he's the dominant one or whatever. I don't know if it's being a bit basic as, like man's in charge, woman's not, whatever. I don't know if it's suggesting that, but maybe that's why the angle's not as extreme. If it could be much more down on her. I don't know, I just thought it was an interesting perspective. See, then the shot on him is a lot more, I was going to say plateaued. I don't know if something's looking up or if it's looking down or if it's in the middle. I don't know what that word is. Whatever that word is, that's what that is. The music is oddly sad right now. It says, well, we're 15 minutes into this movie and Ryan Gosling so far has said the word okay. No, not okay. He said go. That's all he said. Look at that lighting though. I know I need to stop pausing every moment to talk about the lighting because we're only 15 minutes into this movie. But look at that lighting though. I just remembered what scene this is. I completely forgot that this happens at least once. I think it happens twice throughout this film. But again, just look at how everything there is set up. How you can see every member of the audience. So the first AD, because they normally organize extras and, people that aren't the main cast, they'll normally organize them, for the director or the cinematographer or whatever. So look how they're all sat. Look at they've all got these little lights on their table, so they're slightly illuminated. We've got these red lights over there. We've got these blue lights. Just an absolute majestic setup. I'm just taking that in for a minute. Look at that. And like, it doesn't have to do much more than look lovely. You know, like I said a minute ago, I was reading quite a lot into that thing. Like, is he leaving the light to go towards the darkness? You can read stuff into that anywhere. Someone could probably read a lot into this. You know, like, with all that red above them, again, are these men in some sort of underworld? You know, is that small amount of bright white light there reminiscent of what small amount of soul they have left in them? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Maybe it just looks fucking cool. Sometimes that's all movies need to do, is just look fucking cool. Look how fucking cool that looks. Yeah, I absolutely love... Sorry, so it's just cut around to see what that audience were looking at, and it's the head honcho criminal overlord guy about to sing some karaoke, and he's beautifully symmetrical there in that shot. Well, near enough symmetrical in that shot. I just love from his like character point of view that the way he lets off steam after he's like cutting people's limbs off and dealing with dead prostitutes and all of this, that, and the other, and dishing out, like, what do they call it? Is it corporate punishment? Where you kill someone if they've killed someone? I don't know. He's just doing all that criminal shit. The way he lets off steam is to go sing karaoke. I love that as a character choice. That's, or, you know, from the writer, or they wrote that in, not this guy chose. He probably didn't turn to Nicholas Winding Refn and be like, hey, it would be a great idea for my character if he does some karaoke. Yeah, you get me. And, yeah, so I paused it at quite a good time because hopefully you can see those subtitles. He's singing in what I can only assume is his native tongue, Thai, because we are in Bangkok. I don't know. But luckily there's a translation. And like I say a minute ago, he was a very dark, you know, criminal empire kind of guy, you know, dealing out murders, prostitutes, the rest of it. All the lyrics to this song are so tender. So look, my heart still treasures those sweet memories. And he's singing it very well, and he's singing it with, like, you know, passion. Like, these words mean something to him. Look at his expression. You could tell he's thinking about the person who resonates with him with those words. If that was a sentence that made any sense. You feel me? You may not feel me. You probably wouldn't want to feel me right now. You'll catch the flu. So, do you understand me? With your words and mind. This is the brightest we have seen anything in this film so far. Look at these bright white lights. This glamorous woman coming in. I'm pretty sure she's Ryan Gosling's mother in this. Pardon me. So does this say a lot about her as a character? Does she maybe remove herself from the criminal underworld? Is she trying to avoid it? Is she trying to rise above it? She's obviously very glamorous. This is a very glamorous, posh hotel. She's dressed very, you know, rich white lady. So, we're establishing. So it's a very nice wide shot as well, encompassing that glorious marble desk. I just realised who that is. It's Jax Teller's mum from Sons of Anarchy. Love this actress. If you haven't watched Sons of Anarchy, do. It does falter between season 3 and 4, but the last few in the first couple, exquisite TV. And she's wicked in it. I just want to comment on the dialogue. Sorry, this is why I paused this. So, like I said, rich white lady walks in. The woman behind the desk goes, very nice greeting, like, oh, hello, how are you? How can I help? She just coldly says, I'm checking in. Woman, okay, yep. Takes her information, goes, oh, I'm very sorry. The room won't be ready until whatever. She just pauses for a minute, looks really, just doesn't say anything, just stares at her, and then just says, get your manager. Proper Karen right here. So straight away we know exactly what kind of character we're dealing with. And all she said is two sentences. So the point is, no wasted dialogue. Smart writing. That's an interesting shot. So we had a few establishing shots a minute ago in this marketplace of all the players that were there. When I say players, you know, the people involved in the scene. So there was Gosling, there was Gosling's mate who was also mates with his brother. There was the dad who lost his arm, what we can assume are some of his daughters. And they've all just disappeared into that dark room there on the right. And the camera that's sort of in this, not alleyway, but it's in this like corridor of this four-way junction here. It's just slowly crept closer and closer to the middle of the junction as they were disappearing in there, which is sort of showing us that like we're trying to follow these guys into this. Some I don't know. It just gives it the gives it the impression that it's some sort of like secret meeting or something important that maybe we shouldn't really be privy to. But we're like, trying to sort of follow it in. It's just a interesting shot. Maybe it doesn't read that into it at all. Maybe you read something else into it. Maybe I haven't actually said anything worth noting, but I like the shot. It was a great use of sound just then. So Ryan Gosling is slowly loading a revolver, and he says to the guy with him, ask him why he killed my brother. So then this guy asks him, the other guy asks him, he doesn't say anything, and then he's finished putting bullets in the revolver, and then to prompt a reaction from him, because he's not said anything, he does that cool thing where they like flick the revolver to the side so that the wheel falls into place. So you get that, and that sort of like startles this guy. Just really cool use of sound. This was the shot, by the way. So you see he's holding the revolver in there. Is he wearing white to be some sort of like bringer of justice, or is it just a coincidence? I don't know. There's been a lot of odd Freudian things happening here. Is this worth going into? Yeah, fuck it. If you know anything, I don't know a lot about Freud, but I know he has that. Is it the Oedipus complex? Where people's relationships with their mother is or with their father is like a direct correlation of their sort of sexual preferences, right? So we had a shot earlier where, is this too weird to get into? This might be too weird to get into. Either way, there's some interesting themes happening throughout this movie. So we had that, fuck it, I'm not getting into it, it's weird. There's themes and stuff happening in this movie regarding Ryan Gosling, this person here who is his sort of like love interest, or at least the person he keeps doing sex. And then it was weirdly cut into shots with his mum. So if you know anything about Freud or the Oedipus complex, and you've seen this film, or you want to rewatch this film, or you want to watch it for the first time, just bear that in mind, because it's weird and it's uncomfortable, and I can't be fucked to get into it. It's just weird themes to explore, but hey. I paused it to go to the loo, and look at that amazing shot that I paused it on. Look how good that is. Also, have you noticed my t-shirt? It's true, I do love that guy. Really great use of sound just then. So Ryan Gosling is following the criminal empire police officer dude, and he's walking away from him, down the streets, going through the marketplace, and the music is getting more and more intense and more suspenseful. The further he gets away from him, and the more panicked Ryan Gosling looks, like he's going to lose sight of him. Just a nice use of score. Okay, so not only has this been a really nice shot tracking across as this guy's been walking from left to right, from right to left. It's a really nice shot. You got the sunset, etc., and that sort of, is that sunset or twilight? Doesn't matter. And as he's sort of twirling his sword around, I don't know if it would have been diegetic, if you remember that, but you can hear like the of the blade sort of scything through the air. So that might be something that the sound department adds in post-production, or the editor adds in post-production. But it's just little bits like that, or like when he pulled it out of its sheath, you hear the like ching. That might be something that was caught diegetically when they filmed it, or it might be something that gets added in post. But these are just nice little things you can add on in post or something. When we say in post, if you don't know, it's post-production, so that's normally during the editing and the color grading and the sound and the mixing and everything like that. Okay, so Ryan Gosling and his partner just walked in through this doorway, amazingly symmetrical. Hopefully we'll get a reverse shot on how his mother was sat at the table waiting to see them, because that was also very nicely symmetrical. Yeah, now they're all in there. So look at the symmetry in that scene. Everything down to like the wine glass is near enough. But look how awesome that scene is. Yeah. This is something this film keeps doing, which is pretty cool. Not necessarily always during the same theme. Like now there's some sort of business exchange happening, or an exchange of information, a passing of monies. But it happened earlier when the father of the prostitute who died at the beginning of the film, was killed by an asshole at the beginning of the film. When he sort of started to plead for mercy from Ryan Gosling, and now during this information or business exchange, the dialogue is absent from the audio, and instead it's replaced with a score. So we can't hear what's being said. We just see, the actors' performances and have a score that denotes the emotion or the theme. So in this sense, the music is like earlier on when the guy was pleading for his life, the music was a bit reminiscent of that. And now the music is a bit more mysterious. It's hard to describe music, when it's from a score. But yeah, the music is a bit more what you would expect to hear during a scene of crime. There you go. And again, it's stunningly lit. The sound in this scene has been fantastic. So this is the really violent torture scene where this fella is talking to the British guy with the sort of slick back hair, trying to find out who put out the hit on him. And pardon me. And so when he stabs the chopsticks or hairpins or whatever they are into his forearms to sort of pin him to the chair, it's a real sharp, loud, sort of, violent, but I mean violent in terms of like the volume of the noise coming down, like a shing, as it sort of sticks into him. And then as he's walking around the place looking for more sharp implements like that he's found there's a real slow build of like a sort of a held note. Like when you go to the cinema or whatever and they have that like Dolby sound where it showcases how amazingly powerful the sound is, as like and it like just gets louder and louder. It's not as grandiose as that. It's a lot more sinister and dark, probably like a minor key note or chord that's being held, but that's slowly building up, which is just increasing this sort of this tension and sense of like dread about more pain that's coming this guy's way. And again, when he just pulled those sharp implements out from that bouquet of sharp implements and flowers, there's like a shing. So again, just adding in those little sound effects. Oh my god. So I shouldn't be laughing at it. It's just the juxtaposition is very funny. So he was just torturing this guy in the most horrific way to extract information, and like the last thing we see is he's cut the dude's eyes so he's blind. He's stabbed him through the forearms, pinning him to the chair. He stabbed him in both the legs. He's fucking this dude. This dude's life is changed now if he survives. He's going to have to adapt to basically being disabled. And the last thing we see is him skewering this thing into his ear. And the guy's like, screaming at the top of his lungs. And then it just cuts to karaoke time. I'm sorry, that's the juxtaposition that was making me laugh. Like, why? It's just how he blows off steam after doing some diabolical shit. This is just... Dude, I can't even. I will say, though, just a minor critique is... Maybe it was a directorial choice or an acting choice, but the only reaction that guy seems to give when he's getting tortured is just to scream at the top of his lungs, and maybe that's what the director wanted. I could have done with a little bit more variation, you know? I wanted some more variety in my torture, that's what I wanted. No, I just felt like it reached a level of... Okay, because that scene is to do with suspense, right? And I believe I heard Quentin Tarantino talk about suspense as being an elastic band, and the further and tighter you can stretch that elastic band, the more tense and suspenseful the scene as a result. So in that moment, the tension is how long can this guy withstand the torture? Otherwise it just turns into torture porn, which, you know, has its place in cinema, but I personally look for something a little bit more, with a bit more substance to it. So like I said about the music, that was building up very nicely, creating that sense of tension and dread. But when you have the victim already at fever pitch, there's nowhere else for him to go. He's already maxed out. So if that becomes more of a build, you know, maybe they could have included some begging, because he sort of was just, what's the word? Defiant. He was just defiant. Fuck you, I'm not telling you anything, and then screaming about it, and then straight back to fuck you, I'm not telling you anything, and then the guy does something else to him, and there could have been a little bit more room for some variety there. But hopefully you get what I mean. But I think it's a valid point. See, we know this guy's the big bad. Ryan Gosling is wearing some sort of like navy blue, dark blue suit, and he's lit with more blue tones. So that could be showing that he is the, I guess the good here. And then this guy's lit with that red hue on his face, slightly shadowed, giving him like a dark, almost furrowed brow. And then he's dressed in his sort of majoritively black shirt thing. So you get the sort of the bad against the good. Simple lighting, but effective. Oh, and then that contradicts my point, because he's lit with the same fucking light. So there we go. Look at that fucking shot. Look at that. The symmetry. Just fantastic. And as it cut to it, that classic sort of like, what do you call it? You know, that neon synthy sounding music that I tend to associate with a lot of Nicholas Winding Refn films. You know, it's the Drive soundtrack. You know, that kind of like synth pop stuff that was happening. This is a little bit more up tempo, but similar genre, and it just cut to that, so you know shit's about to go down. But look at that shot, man. See, like I said earlier on, for ages throughout this film, there's been images of Ryan Gosling with his hands, you know. One way or another, he's looking at his hands, he's pondering, like, am I strong enough? Do I have the strength, the ability? Or at least that's what I was projecting onto it. And now he's holding him up, he's juking him up. Now is the time for him to test his manhood. I think that's one of the key themes of this film, is like his pride, his manhood. Can he do what's right? Can he defend his family? Or can he make the more intelligent moves? Does it always come down to violence? And a lot of that is sort of reflected between him and his mother's character. You know, she's quite domineering and controlling, and sort of mocks his lack of like alpha manhoodness. So this is like his sort of shot to prove himself or redemption kind of thing. I'm pretty sure those are some of the themes throughout this movie, but it's easy to lose sight of that amidst all the neon lights and the violence, I suppose. Now, after he's quite quickly dispatched Ryan Gosling, I'm pretty sure Gosling didn't even land a punch on him. Anytime he went to punch him initially, at the start of the fight, it's an interestingly choreographed fight, like a dance, right? There's the best fights you'll see on screen have choreography that's like dance level good. And what I mean by that is it tells a story, okay? Sometimes it will just be a kick-ass fight scene, but most of the time it will tell a story. To equal a good fight, or at least a good storytelling fight, right? If you want to watch a good fight, just watch UFC. But if you want to watch a story-driven fight, movies. Anyway, so in this fight, like I said at the start, it started with the shot similar to this, where it's Ryan Gosling. It's his chance to prove himself. Ryan Gosling throws a few boxing, like Western boxing style punches and things. This guy just moves out the way, doesn't even raise his hands, just dips, ducks, dives, and dodges. Great film. And evades them, and then throws a few counters, knocks Ryan Gosling about a little bit. Ryan Gosling tries something else, tries to throw a knee. This guy counters that, swings around, hits him with an elbow, fucks Ryan Gosling up. Ryan Gosling gets up off the deck, and then he starts attacking. So we've had Ryan Gosling's attacking, not landing a single blow. This guy dodge, counter, dodge, counter. And now it's like, okay, now it's my turn, now it's his turn to fight. So he starts throwing kicks, elbows, knees, and Gosling he's not got an answer to it. Just takes his lumps, gets the living crap beaten out of him. And then once Gosling's finally on the deck, like I said, it happens quite quickly. He just dispatches him. He's on the deck. He's done. He's out. The fight is over. We then get this shot on him mirroring Gosling's shot. So if that was Gosling going, it's my turn to prove that I am, the alpha here. Now, this guy was the alpha all along. Like I say, small in stature, but it ain't the size of the dog. Ain't the size of the dog in the fight. It's the size of the fight in the dog, perhaps. But he's the Mac Daddy. He's the one in charge. Old karaoke king over here. Okay, my mistake. The fight did go on a little bit longer, but it continued in theme. That guy either kicking the fuck out of Gosling or Gosling trying to hit him and missing, and that guy continuing to counter and beat the fuck out of him. Had a few cutbacks to this boxing figure that we haven't seen since early on in the film, and it started close up on his face, and it's just been tracking out, getting to a wider shot. So now we're in a mid shot of that boxing figure, and every time it's cut back to it, it's just been pulling further and further back. So maybe that symbolizes something. What does that symbolize to you? Because I can't think what it symbolizes to me. What is interesting there? So now we're back at the shot that this fight sequence started with, where we had Karaoke King stood there, and now we have Ryan Gosling laid there on the same side. And there was a little face-off between the mother and the Karaoke King, sort of like the two heads of both sides of these like sort of criminal empires. Pardon me. Sort of squaring off. She chickens out, walks away. I think it's Mai, Gosling's love interest, sees her man beat the fuck. She leaves. So it's like the two sort of women in his life. Maybe they view him as like a failure. Does that say something about his, want to sort of, be the man, be the alpha in that scenario? Does it play on that theme? And then Karaoke King's just left screen screen left, his stage right, and left Gosling there on the floor. So a lot of mirroring of shots. Ryan Gosling is so good at being stoic, and barely looking like he's doing anything, but showing you so much. It's a mark of a good actor. I've definitely spoken about this before in other podcasts, that sometimes I feel there's a bit of a trend in Hollywood lately for actors to really reach for the emotion. Like if they're supposed to be sad or scared, they want to take that straight to 10. Whereas there's something to be said for the more old school method of acting, and I don't mean method acting, where actors will just exist. Robert De Niro, Marlon Brando, they'll just be. They don't need to, like, oh, I'm so sad, look at me, 10 out of 10 being sad. They'll just, hum at maybe a 5, maybe a 6. For could be any sort of reasons. It could be something as simple as, men sort of not being allowed to cry. So, in societal terms, I cry at fucking everything all the time. I don't care. But the general sort of rule of thumb in society is like men should be strong and not cry. So it might be something like with someone like Robert De Niro or Brando, they maybe don't want to, oh, this is me crying at a 10, this is me crying at a 5, because it's their character is conscious of not being able to cry in a social setting. It could be something like that. But Gosling I think he's of that school. He's of that, I don't want to overshare, I just want to hum at a certain frequency, and then it's up to the audience to project or interpret that, project onto that or interpret from that, whatever they feel it may be. But he also did this thing that I noticed Marlon Brando used to do, particularly, I believe the film is One-Eyed Jacks, or it might be from the film where he was a biker really early on, black and white, and he goes to a small town. I can't remember the name of that film, Jesus. But I'm pretty sure it's from One-Eyed Jacks anyway. He stood down in the street, and there's a guy sort of stood up on a porch, a few steps up on a porch, and he asks him a question. I'm pretty sure it's One-Eyed Jacks, actually, because I'm pretty sure Brando directed the film and the scene that I'm talking about. And the guy says something to him, and Brando just looks at him for ages. He's asked him something, so in the script, it's Brando needs to respond. Brando just looks at him for ages, like, and then he responds. So I don't know if that's maybe some sort of Meisner thing, or Meisner, a practitioner, if you're not aware, an acting practitioner, where one of his sort of rules is don't do anything until something organically makes you do that. So it could be mostly the sort of organic behavior that the person acting opposite you is giving you. Something from them has to organically prompt you to respond. They call it the pinch and the ouch. Someone pinches you, ouch. It's the pinch and the ouch, right? Whereas someone wouldn't pinch you and then 30 seconds later you go, ouch. You know what I mean? But if it's not as, snap or violent as a pinch, I don't mean violent as in like pinching someone is a violent thing to do. I just mean it like it prompts an immediate response. It could be something that requires your character to ponder, or maybe it pisses off your character. So you don't want to respond immediately. You're just digesting it, and then their impatience in waiting for you to respond prompts your response. Do you see what I mean? So they say something to you, and you're like, okay, let me ponder this, and then you're observing their behavior, and their behavior shows an impatience in waiting for you, and then you might sort of think, and then you might respond and deliver your line, but it might be with the sort of the attitude or the emotional undercurrent of, I will respond to you when I'm good and goddamn ready, and you will wait. But the words you're saying might be completely different to them. But yes, we will have tea later, okay, with 2 sugars and a splash of oat milk. You see the undercurrent there. I hope I'm making this point clear. But I feel like Ryan Gosling is very much in that school, is that he won't just respond for the sake of responding. He'll really mull it over. He'll take his time if he needs to. He might respond. Earlier on in the film, he asks his partner May she says, oh, I don't want this dress you gave me. And he says, well, take it off then. They don't say anything else for a good 10, 15 seconds. He just looks at her, and then all of a sudden he screams, take it off. that would have come from his observations of her behavior. You know, it could have been him losing his patience with her not doing anything, just staring at me. Why are you just staring at me? Why aren't you taking off this dress? I told you to take off this dress. Take it off! Do you see what I mean? Great actor. My point is, great actor. Okay? Cool. Apart from the sofa and these futon coffee table looking things, she pretty much died symmetrically. Isn't that nice? Let me take these headphones off. Right. Well, there we have it, folks. Only God forgives. I think that film was a bit of a like under the radar gem. I really liked it. I liked it when I watched it years ago. It's the first time I watched it for like I say, probably nearly a decade. It's really, really weird, really violent. Oddly, it's, you know, spoiler alert, but the villain sort of seems to win. You know, the crime boss, the karaoke king, he seems to win. The whole sort of Gosling family kind of gets got one way or another. You don't often see that in films. That's my point. Anyway, I liked it. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. And yeah, this might potentially be the first episode of the rebrand. So, hope you enjoyed, everybody.